Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Dave Neal, stand-up comedian and power recapper of Bachelor Nation News. We have an update to what I believe to be the biggest story of 2023. No, not my birthday today. That's right. I'm 21 plus 17, and I am here. I'm 21 plus the, the legal driving age here, and then change. Okay, but thank you so much for all the birthday wishes. I've been getting them all day. I appreciate you. I'm going to go have a bowl of clam chowder and call it a day, but first, we have to talk about this conversation. I've got my nice emoji there. That's my new cricket emoji. Nick goes quiet. Love is Blind's Nick Thompson and Danielle slam Nick Viall for horrific comments about reality stars' mental health. What Nick did was he did that whole thing where you fart in a crowded elevator, then get off and he closes the elevator. He did that metaphorically by speaking disparagingly about the efforts to help reality TV contestants with their mental health issues. And then he went to Stagecoach for the weekend. We're going to get the update. And let me tell you something. The independent podcast Nation has spoken. She's All Batch, Reality Steve, Game of Roses, The Bachelorette, and now Us Weekly is even reporting on this story. I'm not one for sensationalism. Now, I know how to make a good clickbait thumbnail, and can you believe the toenails on Dale Moss? Okay, I can do that with the best of them. But I said this last week, and I'll say it again. This is the biggest story of the year. Now, Nick had people from his cast that had chosen to end their life due to mental health struggles, and it's happened a handful of times in reality TV, and it can happen again, and it will happen again, and people need to have a rational discussion and compassionate discussion about these topics. And that's why it's important, if Nick wants to enter the conversation, that these conversations do happen. We'll have to see what goes down on his next podcast, but as we know, he made a statement. He then doubled down, and we'll have to see if it's a triple down or maybe some ayahuasca at Coachella or Stagecoach gave him some clarity that he's been seeking to what the foundation wants to do. And, look, hey, maybe I understand Nick Thompson and Jeremy Hartwell, these guys that started the foundation from Love is Blind. Maybe there's some sort of that feeling like they remind him of guys he played football with in high school, and it triggered a response. Who knows? Who knows what happened? But of course, just because Nick had to deal with the hardships of the scrutiny of being a villain and all these other things doesn't mean others should go through that, because it's not quite fair. And like I always say, the wrecking ball always swings farther from its target. Collateral damage, folks. So here's the article. Love is Blind's Nick and Danielle slam Nick Viall for horrific comments. And again, we already saw all this. Just a real quick repeat. This is what Nick said. Despite all the gifts, access, and opportunities that come with it, the poor reality TV stars need your help. So the belittling aspect, which comes from the sort of sarcasm, oh, help them, pray for them, they're so wounded. Meanwhile, Danielle recounts her story of being on Love is Blind and hiding in the closet, having a panic attack, and wondering, having suicidal thoughts, wondering, how can she get out of this mess, not, feeling despair, these horrible feelings, knowing if she quits the show, she's going to get fined $50,000. And what does the show do? How does the show handle it? They lie. The show edits her to look like she was just having a manic panic attack, when in fact it was much more than that. So anyway, here's what Game of Roses had to say about it. I'm going to play their clip, and then She's All Batch, and then Reality Steve. And let me tell you something. Kids' gloves are off.
Come up with this bullshit and go on these other podcasts and
other podcasts,
nonprofit,
like Game of Roses,
asking fans to donate money. He's not offering
for himself,
for
what?
No,
I guess
for the nonprofit,
for consultations for future reality TV stars or whatever.
The donation page says, "Don't you think it's time to help the cast? If everyone who watched reality TV donated just 1 month of what they pay streaming services, we could solve this issue forever." Reality
what
TV
issue? I mean, the what's the word I'm looking for? The audacity.
Wait.
There's so many problems going on in this world, and these motherfuckers want you to solve this world problem?
It's a bigger problem than that, Nick Viall. It's about corporate greed. It's about these giant corporations using people as fucking property, chewing them up, spitting them out, and saying, fuck you very much, giving them no mental health care, denying them food and water, all this shit, whether you believe that's real or not. It is, but he's not understanding. This isn't just about reality TV stars being like, oh, there's something innate in what he's doing here that is even diminishing the idea of what reality TV is. But the bigger issue at hand is that these giant corporate greed machines can mistreat people, destroy them psychologically, destroy their lives potentially by putting them in weird edits that are making them say things they never said. And there is no recourse. That is what they're trying to change, Nick.
To like come up with this bullshit and go on these other podcasts and
Okay, so then it repeats. So when Nick speaks of these other podcasts, it's another way of diminishing people. And look, it's not a big deal. I don't lose sleep over it. When we had somebody had shouted me out on his channel, he just like talked over them and doesn't, he doesn't address the. There's like a blue collar nature to this. And again, you could say I'm bitter, but I'm not. I'm having a happy and successful life. It's my birthday, folks. But there is this blue collar nature when Morgan, when he talked about Morgan breaking a story, he was like, that Morgan girl or this or that. It's an elitist attitude. Like, well, you weren't on the show. You didn't get verified from ABC. You're not one of us. And so you don't matter. When in fact, to be quite honest, the independent podcasters who've made a living doing this are, in my opinion, way more respected because they came from a sea of people, from hundreds and thousands of voices, and theirs rose to the top because they had something valuable to say, like Game of Roses, like She's All Batch, and so many others. Our good friend Jess Ambrose. Like, there's so many out there that are really valuable in this game. And they speak truth to power. And Game of Roses does just that. It is a workers' issue. That's what it comes down to. And people will continue to say they're not workers. Well, if they're not workers, then why? That's the issue. And we see it with other workers getting exploited and not having, not being treated fairly, the movement to quiet quitting, and so many different issues going on. It's like, we want capitalism, we want certain things, but there are abuses that happen there, and things need to put into place. There's a reason a minimum wage exists, even though it should be higher, but the minimum wage exists because people will be exploited. Oh, it's just a starter job. Well, what are we doing with child labor laws? You know what I mean? There's all these laws that exist, and yet on reality TV, we just say, oh, we're just documenting reality, when in fact it's got a lot of collateral damage. So Nick here says, and what he had sort of prosecuted is this idea that people weren't treated badly. No one was starved, no one was deprived of water, when in fact we know those are tactics used to kind of ramp up drama and kind of mess with people's brains. Well, and by the way, I will be discussing this more on the podcast because yesterday I was fighting some health issues while going to the Red Sox game. And I'm going to discuss it on the podcast, Bachelor Rush Hour. I'll give all my birthday updates there. Quick plug for that. Link in the comment section. It'll be funny. It'll be worth a listen. But either way, this reminded Date Card Pod, another great independent podcast community here, to share the conversation that Nick had with Reality Steve. Now, the clip I'm about to play for you was the last time that Nick let his emotions really get the best of him. He ended up apologizing afterwards, but it was a conversation that Nick had with Reality Steve where he was too close to the subject matter, too emotional to come off well, and he was pretty much universally obliterated by fans for how dismissive he was of Reality Steve in their conversation. And don't take my word for it. Check the comment section. So after he had a follow-up with Reality Steve, his response was something like, well, what we learned was Reality Steve has a pretty loyal fan base. And that was his way of saying, well, his fans don't like me. And I think that's also dismissive of an audience that says, no, Nick, you're not getting it. When you're too close, and this happens with people, when you're too close to the subject matter and when you have too much emotion to it, you show a side that's more reactionary than is realistic to what the argument's all about. And that's what he brought up with this Love is Blind mental health issue, was like, it's too much like, well, I didn't have to do that, so why should they? Or we didn't have that, or kind of like revisionary history here. But here it is, just a couple years ago, Reality Steve confronting Nick with the truths that he has heard and being dismissed.
Situation in itself really is what goes on in that show.
I think then it just turns into, this is a case-by-case scenario, because what you dealt with has been, like you said, that was your experience. But when I've had people specifically tell me I wasn't allowed to eat, I wasn't allowed to go to bed until I gave a producer a line that they told me to say, it does happen. That's all I'm telling you to acknowledge. It does happen on the show. They will tell people, you cannot go to bed until you say this line, or give me what I want.
As someone who's been in it for so long and talked to so many people, I've literally never...
I've heard it numerous times. That's the problem. You haven't heard it. I've heard it numerous times.
I don't doubt that, but I also think that a lot of the people you talk to have revisionist history and are affected by the show, and are a lot of reasons mad they didn't go far. I mean, I don't want you to name your sources, and I know some of your sources, but like a lot of them are people who aren't top four. Who feel like, again, the girl who you're like, they told me I was going to go far and I went home night one. She's fucking pissed she didn't go far. Her ego is bruised. She feels misled. She's had all these hopes and dreams. She's probably spent $5,000 on dresses.
So two things can be true. People can be upset that they didn't go far. I was on a game show once. I won one episode, made a few bucks, and then the other episode I lost, and I was upset. But it doesn't change the fact that this happened. People aren't upset, so then they're lying. They're upset and saying, hey, by the way, they're doing some crazy stuff over there. And maybe you weren't the victim of being sleep deprived or not being fed well. It's not about are they going to starve to death. It's that they were given less or offered rewards if they spilled tea or information, and their brains going. And look, guys, this happens with forced confessions all the time. Have you watched How to Make a Murderer? Have you watched any shows where they go in and show that crime scene detectives, when they present you with enough, so when they beat you down enough and you haven't gotten sleep and you haven't gotten water, or your family, if they take that all away from you, you might say things. And this happens, guys. People confess to crimes they didn't commit because their brain's just not there. I mean, have we seen the Snickers commercial? You're not quite you anymore. Have a Snickers. What they're saying is, eat some food. Your brain's starving and is acting irrationally. Nick's very dismissive to that argument.
I'm going to go home night one, and she's super fucking pissed. And you know what? Who do you think she's going to take it out on? And the perfect person to go to is you, to vent their... I mean, you are the person that disgruntled cast people go to air their grievances.
But that doesn't mean the grievances are wrong. Now, look, I'm going to take a second here. I don't do this often. I let you guys speak for me in the comment section. I'm going to take a victory lap here. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I think our coverage of this story has been some of the best stuff we've done. I truly do. And it's not because there's any extended research. It's not because there's I'm preparing all this dissertation. It's because I'm speaking from my heart when I'm telling you his emotions are getting the best of him. He's reacting in a way that is not healthy. It is not good for him. And if anyone knows his PR people, or if he doesn't have any, you gotta rethink this. Go on a long walk, smoke a joint, watch the sunset, and come back to this conversation, Nick. Nick, I'm telling you right now, I know you catch our videos once in a while. You're on the wrong side of this story. And I know I'm not trying to use your words against you and say, well, you want to become a therapist. I'm telling you right now, you need to put yourself into the shoes of the people that were mistreated and it didn't work out for, and realize the world's not perfect. And just because they signed up for it doesn't mean this is the way it needs to be. Nick, I'm telling you right now, from one disgruntled guy. I'm not disgruntled, and I'm not a former cast member, and I have no stake in the matter here. I'm telling you right now, you're on the wrong side of this story, Nick. And that's okay. You're a valuable member of the community. And it's like siblings or cousins having a little beef on Thanksgiving. I'm telling you right now, if you want to, and this might sound self-serving, but if you want to come on Drive with Dave, let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Let's have a malted beverage. Malted, is that alcohol? Let's have a alcoholic-free spritzer. We'll have some LaCroix in my car, and we'll talk about it. Or talk to somebody else about it. Have Nick and Jeremy on your show. But either way, you're just coming off on the wrong side of this, bud. And anyway, there were some other stories about, you know what, I don't know if we have enough time to play this. People were sending me different stories about work violations in the entertainment world. And the truth is, when it comes to jobs that are sort of cushy or nice or like, good jobs, it's hard for audiences to have empathy. And it's hard for audience to go, oh, woe is me. So it's very easy for people to latch on to Nick's point, because it's like, oh, woe is me. Oh, it's too tough, having fun at your Coachella events. And we realize, look, trust me when I say this. When mental health, as far as mental health is concerned, it doesn't care how much money's in your bank account. It doesn't care if you're in the desert watching, a Frank Ocean play music. It doesn't care about that type of stuff. So Jeremy had posted that Nick actually admitted, just pulling up old articles, he admitted that him and other alumni were not given much help when it came to dealing with their own mental health. So he's admitted it in his past. And then Katie Thurston, and we're going to wrap this up here. Katie Thurston had posted a quick story with Nick over the weekend at Stagecoach, I think it was Stagecoach, which is the festival there that a lot of Bachelor go to. So we posted in the last video, Rachel Recchia and Tino were at the same festival. Did they run into each other? Who knows? But Katie had posted a thing with him, and then people were like, why are you posting with Nick? And, making a whole big deal of it. And she was like, I didn't even know. I didn't know what was going on. So she posted this. She shared my story here. I started hearing about all of this just yesterday. I can always rely on Dave's channel to catch me up on all the latest reality TV news. I applaud Love is Blind cast for standing up for their rights and holding a network accountable. And hopefully this sets a precedent for how contestants are treated going forward. If you're involved in the Nick V versus Katie Thurston battle of who's on the right side of history, check my bias here, folks, but I think it's Katie Thurston. Oh, is she just a disgruntled former cast member? Or is it like, hey, let's all just do better, right? So the list goes on and on. Bachelorette posted it, and then I posted my video here, which, by the way, has 250,000 views on Instagram, my Driving with Susie. And just as a side note, if you do want me to interview someone next, tag them in this video, trying to get Rachel Recchia or Genevieve, trying to get, we have some other people in the works, like a Tino, even some other names I won't say because I don't want to say it before they come on. But if you want to help support the channel, you can go tag them there. And then here's what Reality Steve had to say. I'm going to end with this. This was from his Friday episode. He's got a great daily podcast. He does the mornings. I do the evenings for all your Bachelor needs. And he's covering American Idol as I am. I'll be covering that today. Nutsa got robbed. But either way, here's just the intro to what Reality Steve had to say. After I listened to it, I said, hey, Steve, how do you really feel about this?
Interesting show. Heading into the weekend, we're going to spend pretty much all of it talking about what's going on with this Love is Blind lawsuit, the Nick Viall hate that he is getting because of his awful, awful, awful takes on what's been happening, the response by the Love is Blind contestants to Nick's takes. It's a lot, and we will get to that momentarily.
Okay, so anyway, so he goes into it, and it was just a funny, like, his, because obviously Reality Steve's had a beef with him for a while, but, like, it's not to draw hate towards Nick. It's just to, like I've said before, criticize the point, not the person.
We believe the ultimate summer destination urinary health off. That's
Hold on.
Promo code is Reality Steve. That gets you 50. You heard me say to her when we were talking about Love is Blind that a publicist for the contestants that are involved in all this right now reached out to me. What was the date of this email?
Oh, so anyway, so look, sorry, I don't want to waste your time, guys. But anyway, you can go check out what he said. But he didn't hold back. Oh, the sun's finally coming out after a full weekend of rain. The sun is coming out on my birthday. It's my birthday and it's sunny. All right, I'll be back tomorrow night in Los Angeles. So one more day of mobile content for you guys. Look, if you enjoy what we're doing, I love my gear around. I am highly critical of these podcasts that don't take your time seriously, and I like to provide you guys with the best content ever. Even got the reverb. So if you enjoyed this content, just do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment, and check out the podcast. If you want to help me out for my birthday, best thing you can do is check out the podcast. You could join the Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, but you could also check out the podcast Bachelor Rush Hour, where you listen to podcasts. I tell you what, I understand. We got a lot of boomers out there. I tried explaining to my parents what a podcast was on the phone. Good grief. I was like, you know what? I'll just get you the newspaper. You know what I mean? It's it ain't for everybody, but if you want content while you're driving or at the gym or breastfeeding, whatever the hell you're doing, vacuuming, you can just put me in your ears. You don't have to watch. You can just listen, and we'll have more content for you, including an American Idol recap and more info about my crazy weekend that was. All right, folks, that'll probably be it from me. Maybe you'll get an extra bonus video, but I'm going to go take some time with my family and loved ones and have a little birthday. One more trip around the sun, folks. Thanks for all the kind support. I appreciate you. We'll see you later.